Good morning, Sagar sir.
Good morning, everyone.
Yes, sir. We can begin the session, sir.
Yes. Sorry for the little delay. Hello, everyone. Good morning. This is Sagar Jairam. So, just want to introduce myself. I'm basically from Mysore, born brought up in Mysore. I did my engineering in Mysore, and then I worked in IT for 8 years. So while I was working in IT, I'm sure like a lot of people who are in a job or who have been in the job, they always they would have gone through this experience of having setting up their own business while working in IT or any other job. So I'm one among them who had that thought process in my head, like that I want to start something on my own. So I don't want to be in this IT for a very long time. So that thought process made me to get into business. And my initial idea was to just have a very small idli vada kind of a place, so that I can still juggle between my IT job and this the new ideas of mine. So basically now, post that, I started a cafe called Cafe Down the Alley. So Cafe Down the Alley, we have 3 outlets in Bangalore, and I have total 8 years of experience running this cafe. So the outlets are in Banshankri, Raja Rajeshwari Nagar, and BTM. To start with now, I'll just share the screen. Vaishnavi, do you have that this thing copy which the file which I had shared last time?
Sir, no, sir, I don't have the file with me.
Okay, no problem.
Okay.
So to start with, so I see that there are a lot of FNB aspirants who want to get in their career into FNB. So to start with, I just want to tell you a few things. I was categorized into two sections, section 1 and section 2. So start with section 1, the planning. So before you plan for any of this cafe business and or anything to do with FNB, the first thing you have to ensure is the planning has to be very.
Sagar sir?
Hello.
Yes, sir. Now we can hear
I
you.
got disconnected. Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes. To start with, see, the first thing when it comes to the planning, you have to know your capital investment. So, what is the capital investment you're looking for? Nowadays, I see that even a Darshini calls themselves as a cafe. So, you should know what kind of a cafe you're looking for, or something related to FNB. What is your capital investment? Based on that, you can plan on what is the kind of setup you can come up with, the operations and the menu. So, be very sure that your capital investment, you're very clear on that. What is the budget you're bringing in for the project? Now when I say capital investment, I also want to include the operation investment as well in this. I see a lot of people, for example, they have a budget of 30 lakhs, and they think all the 30 lakhs has to go to the capital investment, that is setting up the cafe. Now that is not the right way of doing it. If you're planning to have a project for worth project cost is 30 lakhs, keep aside 25 to 30% for the operational cost. So you'll not, I suggest you not to spend the entire 30 lakhs in setting up a cafe. It has to be you should have at least 30% of amount, like 10 lakhs for the operational cost as well. Now coming to the next part, location. Location is very important to decide on, where you're the identifying the location is a very major criteria when it comes to regions like Bangalore. The location of the place, for example, if you're planning to set up a cafe in Indra Nagar, the pricing, the real estate is going to be very different from a any other location like Jainagar, Banchankri, or anywhere else. But what is the advantage of identifying the location in a very popular area? Your branding is taken care, because a lot of people, the footfall, the traffic is so high when it comes to F&B in certain areas in Bangalore or any other regions. You will be able to identify which locality is very good for the footfall. So there your marketing cost comes down. But if at all, if you don't have a budget to go for a place like this, a very popular locality, I would suggest even if you're going for any other location also, whatever the amount you save, you have to invest on the marketing bit. For example, you are on a little interior roads, people should know there is a cafe which exists in that particular lane. How do you do that? You have to put do some digital marketing, online or offline marketing, show up your place in all these digital platforms so that people get to know that this is where you're located. If you're on the main roads, there might be some other shops to do with jewelry or sari or something. So when people are coming there, the visibility of your cafe or your F&B unit is good enough that that you don't have to spend so high on the marketing. So identifying the location is the very important criteria. Next, license. So licenses, there are a lot of licenses which you have to procure for starting up a cafe. The main licenses would be trade license. That is, if you're doing in Bangalore, it is BBMP license. If you're doing in Mysore, it is MUDA, I believe, or MCA, I think. MCC, sorry, Mysore City Corporation. Like this, similarly, you have to identify which government body is going to give you the trade license in particular wherever you're setting up your cafe. Now, next is FSSI license. Food license has to be taken according to what kind of, there are in food license, FSSA, there are different sections, that is state license and any other license. I mean, if your turnover is less than 20 lakhs, you have a different license category. So just identify which category or which section you belong to. Accordingly, you have to apply for the food license. Then is Shop Establishment Act, which you can apply online. Udyam certificate, yeah, and these are the four main licenses which you need to procure before you start your cafe business. Coming next, once you're and the rent, say, yeah, one more, the rental agreements. See, be very clear on rental agreements. I have seen a lot of people are ignoring this particular aspect. Rental agreement, whatever you're doing with your landlord, has to be very precise and it has to be registered. I strongly recommend people who are planning to go on a rental properties, be very clear on your terms and conditions in the rental agreement. why i'm saying why I'm saying this is, I see a lot of people making a rental agreement for 1 or 2 years, because that is what landlord was keen on giving it. The tenure period he was very well, we had a firm decision that he doesn't want to give more than 2 years. No business can make profit in 2 years. So after you reach a point wherein if you're doing good or even average, and if you want to need some more 3-4 years to take back your investment, and if the agreement says it is just for 2 years or 3 years, it is not going to work out for you. So have minimum 5 years of rental agreement and get it registered. Why I'm saying this, the rental whatever you would have decided with your landlord, he might change his mind down the lane after seeing you doing very good. He might feel, okay, this shop would have fetched him more rentals than what he has offered you. So you should not go back and stick to saying that, no, we have the rental period is only for 2 years and I don't want to do it, or I want to increase your rentals. You would have already decided your menu pricing, lot of other operation cost, where the major part is going to be your rentals. So be very sure, have all the terms and conditions written down in your rental agreement, so that all these things, challenges don't come in, because these are not challenges. These should not never be a challenges once you start running the show. So be very clear on the rental agreement and also get it registered also, because anything above 11 months has to be registered. So otherwise it has to be renewed every 11 months. So you tell your landlord, okay, I'm getting this rental agreement for 5 years which has to be registered, and that is what the law says. Because the landlord, they have their own insecurities, so they are not very comfortable getting it registered, or want to give it for more than 2 years or 1 year. And one more reason why you have to be very clear on this is, If you go for any loans for this particular project, like there are a lot of schemes where you can make use of, like, getting the subsidies and all. There, when you go to the banker, and when the scheme says that you can take this loan period for 5 to 7 years, bank will not be ready to give you to for 5 to 7 years if your rental agreement says that it is only for 2 years. If your rental period is 2 years, then bank will say I can only give it for 2 years. So you can imagine the EMI cost. It is going to be like 3-4 times more than what you're supposed to pay for 5 or 7 years. So ensure minimum 5 to 7 years is what. If it is more than 7 years, it is well and good. I'm just telling you this. At least 5 years should be the minimum rental period for the rental agreement. Hello. Yeah. So coming next, once the rental agreement, license, and your planning, everything is set. Now you have to work on your menu. So your menu finalization comes into picture after you have worked out on what kind of a cafe project you're coming up, what is the number of staff you're going to have, what is your rentals, what is your electricity cost, what is your overhead cost. All those things comes into one side, because there are two ways of, like, figuring it out your pricing. One is fixed cost, one is variable cost. What is fixed cost? Your rentals, your salaries, all those things are your fixed cost, which is never going to change. Or even you can include electricity also, because approximately this is the electricity cost what I'm going to get for this amount of sales. Apart from that, what is the variable cost? Variable cost is your making cost, making of your products. And so that varies according to your sales. Making cost of your any of your food products should not be more than 25 to 30%. For food, I'm saying. Beverages, it has to be less than 20%, less than 25%. Because there are certain items which you're planning. For an example, if you want to, if you have pasta in your menu, you cannot bring it below 30%. And you can also not charge more than 350 300 rupees or 350 rupees for a pasta, just to make sure that your making cost is less than 30%. So certain products, certain items, food dishes will be more than 30%, like 40% or something. That will be compensated by your beverage cost, which is going to come below 20%. For example, a cappuccino. If you're having a cappuccino, you will not be like, the making cost is not going to be more than 20 rupees. And cappuccino, the average cost in any cafe is what I see, from average, mediocre cafe to third wave or anything, it's between 150 to 250. So accordingly, work it out. Ensure that your making cost is not more than 30% for the food, and it is less than 25% for beverages. Before finalizing your menu, ensure the demographics, you worked on your demographics. See who are your competitors. Nowadays, everything is data. If you have proper data, your 30%, 40% of job is done. You know what to sell, how many footfalls are there, how many people consume what. Everything is there are a lot of third party agencies who gives you this data. How do they take this data? They procure it from Swiggy, Zomato. They have their other sources wherein they give you very accurate data, where you can figure it out. Okay, if in this location where I'm planning to set up my cafe, for the radius of 5 to 10 kilometers, what kind of crowd I have, and what is the affluence, what is the spending crowd, how many flats are there, apartments are there. So that's where that becomes very handy for you to gauge on what kind of crowd you have in and around, and what is the pricing you can keep for your particular dishes. So once you know your rental cost, once you know what kind of a project you are doing, what is the operation cost, what is the salary cost of your employees, after all, getting this done right, only then you can work out on the pricing. Please don't mind, just give me 2 minutes. I'll just want to open my the presentation, so that I don't miss out on any topics. Is that okay?
Sure, sir, sure.
Before I continue, if anyone has any questions in these things, whatever I have spoken of, can ask me questions. Okay, I assume that there are no questions till now. So I just wanted to understand how many of you here in the group is planning to start a cafe, or if they have any other plans of related to F&B. None of you in the group have plans of starting a cafe.
Currently, no plans, sir.
Okay, thanks. So moving forward, until I open this presentation, moving forward. So once your menu finalization is done, what comes next is your salaries and the staffing. Now, staffing is a very tricky thing for for an F&B owner, because getting the right staff at right time, and ensuring that they're satisfied with the salaries what they're getting, and maintain matching the market standards is very very challenging thing, I would say. Staffing is something which no one can teach you. That is something which you learn out of experience. So once you start doing the staffing, and you understand the mentality and the mindset of your staff, that is when you learn what has to be done, what has to be given, what not has to be given, and how do you do the when and where you have to do the micromanagement. All those things comes into picture with experience. So while doing the staffing, just ensure for a cafe, if I would say, see, there you should all understand there's a difference between a cafe and a restaurant. Customers coming to a restaurant, they are not coming there to just spend a lot of time, relax, or work. They're coming there to have good food. So the time they are going to spend in a restaurant is from maximum from 1 hour to 3 hours. So depending on what kind of a restaurant it is. When they're coming to a cafe, it is a different story altogether. They're coming there to work, to relax, to spend some time, have one cup of coffee, along with that have one food item, and then spend a lot of hours working on it. So they look for that comfort, and that ambience matters a lot when it comes to a cafe. Where in restaurant, it is more to do with the food. So when I say more to do with the food and restaurant, I'm talking restaurants who offer meals, wherein people are just coming to have the meals and leave. So so when it comes to cafe and restaurant, the staffing is, there's a lot of difference, because a restaurant guy has to deliver his mean, the court timing is going to be during those lunch hours and dinner hours. So during that time, he needs to have maximum staff, wherein he has a service staff, and he has the manager, captain, and also in the kitchen also, for each particular section he has to have a dedicated resources. Where in cafe, it is not a reason, because people who are coming to the cafe, their main focus is not just the food. It is also that ambience, and that that relax, they want to come sit and work over there. So they don't mind actually waiting little more extra few minutes to until you deliver the food. So you should always have a staff who are all rounders, who are actually doing the service, and knows to make your beverages as well. And also your kitchen staff should be trained such a way that they should be knowing almost the entire, to prepare the entire items. That is the only way you can work it out on your staffing and the costing. You cannot have a captain, manager, a service boy, and have full resources in the cafe as restaurant. Because your restaurant and cafes, the footfall is definitely there is a difference. But the costing and the margin wise, the cafe has more margins compared to restaurants. For example, a restaurant guy doesn't charge lime soda more than 70 or 80 rupees, wherein in a cafe usually they charge 160, 180, or more than 200 rupees for mojitos and all those things. For this is the reason, because people come and sit there, spend long hours working there. So moving from menu finalization, next comes into picture is moving from the staffing. So next thing that comes into picture is now once you start your start the show, what are the things which you need to look into? Like I said, mentioned earlier, your operation cost has to be very much important for you, and you need to have a dedicated operation cost for the project. It cannot be like, okay, fine, I'll run the show and I'll start running the show, whatever, like, sales and business I do, with the sales, the amount what I got, that I'm going to use it for my running. The operation cost cannot be the scenario. Please be always prepared for the worst case, so that you don't have to, like, stop the show for the reasons that you're financially, you're not able to, like, is not stable, and you're not able to continue the show. So ensure you have operation cost for the next 6 months. At least minimum 3 months is what I would suggest, because I've seen a lot of people investing on creating a very beautiful cafe, but once it starts, they don't have the operation cost at all to run the show. They assume that, they're so overconfident. It is not overconfident, it is lack of experience what makes them feel the menu what I'm going to set up is so good, the place is so good, the furnitures are so good, I'm sure a lot of people will come here and I'll have this x amount of sales. In that x amount of sales only I'll run the show. This is what they assume. So please don't do that. Irrespective of whatever sales you do initially, ensure that your operation cost is kept aside. Why I'm saying this is, once you start the show, your main focus should be on attracting the customers for the food, the quality of the food what you're giving, and your ambience and your service. Your headache or your focus should never be towards how do I, like, arrange the money for the next month, how do I pay the salaries, how do I pay the rentals. That can never be your, like, focus once you start the show. So please ensure the operation cost is kept ready for, like, at least minimum 3 to 6 months. And after that, so one more thing I missed out in the stage two: designing and architecture. Just ensure whenever you're getting the design and architecture of your premises, just ensure that you take a consultant or a proper architect who can help you out on setting a place. Why I'm saying this? Because the once you're setting up your kitchen, you should ensure, like, where are your electric points are coming, and where is your plumbing points are coming up. That is very important, because someone, for a main chef who's preparing an item, he should not be spending more time on, like, running around and getting the dishes cleaned and all those things. So ensure your kitchen designing is done accurately as per the operations. That is one thing. And also, like, when you're now I see, like, a lot of people miss out on their electrical points. They even in the during the in the seating section also, the plug points, the mobile charging points, and the laptop charging points has to be very easily accessible for all the tables. So these technicalities we might miss out. So I request, like, use an make a hire a architect or a consultant for this purpose. Next thing is vendor planning. Yes. So vendor planning, how do you do this? So that is the reason sometimes I would always recommend to, like, go for a consultant. Why I'm saying a consultant is because all certain things which you have not experienced, which you have no idea, he'll come into picture and he'll give you suggestions on how to do it. Now, if you already have experience running a show, running a cafe, or you have worked in some restaurants or cafe and you understand the basic things what all are needed to, like, have your own cafe, fair enough, you might not need a consultant. But if not, I would always suggest to go for a consultant. For example, like vendor planning. Now, vendor planning, how do you do is, like, once you finalize your menu, you should know which vendor is giving you what. Now you will have to go for, like, 10-15 vendors. You need to compare the pricing, and you should also understand there is a credit period for a lot of vendors, from lot of vendors. So if you're buying up products, inventory is worth 50,000, not necessary that you have to pay all the 50,000 upfront and then buy those items, because you're buying those items and it is going to run for at least 15 days to 1 month. So until then you make the sales, you won't be able to give back that, that whatever amount, whatever inventory you bought it from the vendor. So they always have this 30 to 45 days of credit period. So always make use of this credit period so that it is not very suffocating for you. So all these things like this, there are a lot of other things which you might not be aware, wherein a consultant can help you on, like, making use of all these things which is happening in the market. It is not something you're demanding. This is something which exists in the market. So moving on, so blending cafe with other elements. See, nowadays cafe concept has become, uh, I would say, not as trendy or not as hype it used to get back then. Why I'm saying is, earlier when Coffee Day had started, there were no place, such kind of a place where people could, sit and relax for long hours. Then nowadays, for this pricing, whatever you're charging, for example, the cappuccino, what people are charging is, let's assume it is 200 rupees. This I'm talking about tier one cities like Bangalore. So let's assume that cappuccino costs is 220 rupees or 200 rupees. Two people are coming and have cappuccinos. That is around 440 or 450 rupees, and they're having one dish. So the costing for two people, it is close to 500 to 600. Now I see, there are a lot of breweries who are offering, good brews, beers and any other beverages for the same cost on weekdays. And those places are more instagrammable than any other cafes. It is huge. So people, especially the young crowd, they want to, go to a brewery or a pub and sit there and spend time rather than sitting in a cafe and, relaxing. So you need to have some extra element in your cafe, in your place, so that people feel like coming, to the cafe. For example, in Cafe Down the Alley, that is the reason what I did. Since I had enough space, so my cafe is 3,000 square feet on the first outlet. So the second outlet is also similar to that. So what we I did is I started doing events and workshops. So we have this bakery sessions, we have this puppet workshop, decoupage, and stand-up comedy shows or open mic. Not necessarily it has to be for 200 or 250, even 30, 40 also kind of events you can do, birthday events. So all those things has to be, you need to have those extra elements, so that, even if your footfall is less, you're coping or matching it up with these kind of events and activities. Or you can also rent out your space during your non-operational hours for some other activities. So that way, you're cutting down on your rentals. So whatever contribution, whatever you can fetch, from other sources, please do it. That is always going to come as handy. That is one thing. Now, cafe management. In under cafe management, you have staff management, vendor management, and accounting. In cafe staff management, see, there is always white collar versus blue collar. So when you're handling these labors, you have to be very sensitive. So don't think that, you will bring those soft skill programs, HR programs, what you have learned or, or experienced in your job, you would imply the same thing here as well. And your staff is going to be, very efficient. So don't be under that assumption, because usually the staff whom we going to hire, they come from a background which we don't understand. So you always have to understand that, each and every staff is different from one another. And I see the market is so clumsy now. So for example, I have a cafe and I have a staff. I am paying them, just for an example, 20,000 of salary. Now there's a new cafe which is coming up in Samad Jainagar or JP Nagar, and he's so desperate to have staff. He would say, if he's giving you 20,000, then I'll give 21,000. Why don't you come and join here? Next, from there, it goes to some other cafe. So end of, the day, his salary is 26, 27,000, and there is one place where they're not doing, they're gonna shut down. Once they shut down, that person doesn't want to come back and work for 20,000, because he's already taken 26,000. So all these things cases, you have to understand. You should know when to hike your staff salary, when not to do it, how to control them. All those things you have to do. Ensure that you take their ID cards, so that, I have seen a lot of thefts happening, in the staff rooms. So at least you cannot control, at least you can be little cautious on these things. You can take precautions wherein you are taking their ID cards, so they also have that little healthy fear. So that is one thing. And also, there is always a good staff and a bad staff. So while handling a good staff and while handling a bad staff, you should know, how to bring that balance as well. So that is very important. And how do you achieve this? You achieve this by bringing in process. Bringing in process is so important. A lot of people miss out on bringing process initially. kindly bring in the process, so that irrespective of what kind of a behavior, what kind of attitude the staff has, he is coming and fitting into that process. If you don't have process, they are going to work in their own ways, which is not going to help for the business. So, and also ensure that food and accommodation is taken care by the owners as itself, so that they don't have to really bother about those things post their operational hours. So a lot of people like by default offer food and accommodation, so please ensure that you offer that as well. In vendor management, like I said, the credit period is something which you need to consider. Sorry, I went on mute. So that you need to know that there's a credit period with the vendor, and please do cross check your pricing. There are a lot of vendors who don't offer you discounts which is coming from the company. For example, if Viba or Marimbula syrups, they offer actually 10 plus 2 on all those things. So keep checking with them, keep random cross check with other vendors what is the prices they are giving, and if there are any offers, so that you can always make use of those offers. And apart from that, yeah, now see, Zomato has this app called Hyperpure. I don't know how many of you are aware about this. So their pricing is almost as good as any market price. Now you don't have to. Earlier there were cases wherein people used to buy a lot of inventories, stock it up, so they get it for lesser price and use it for next one one month. In nowadays you don't have to do it, because even if you're buying 1 kg or 20 kgs of onion also, the prices are the competitive, it is so competitive that you're getting the prices of a market price through Zomato Hyperpure. What is the benefit out of it is your wastage is going to be very less, very very less, because you can place an order today for whatever is needed for tomorrow. Not necessary you have to buy it, keep it in bulk. You need to take care of it this, so that there's no any pesticides or damages happening there. So all those headaches, challenges, you can get rid of by using such kind of apps, wherein you're ordering the previous day for whatever is needed for the next day. So that is something Zomato Hyperpure is handy, at this moment. I'm not sure if they have it in other cities as well. So that is something you need to look into. Next is accounting. So, like I said, in accountings, please ensure you're maintaining a Excel sheet or an attendance sheet every day. Every day, ensure prepare those formula sheets, Excel sheets, so that they're entering the opening cash and the amount received through UPI, amount received through banks, I mean, the card swiping machines. So every day, please do the monitoring. Please do question your staff if there is any shortage, not just shortage, even if there's an excess amount also, you need to question them. The moment you start questioning them, they'll be they know that their owner is following up there. They know that they have been monitored. So certain unwanted behaviors are will be cut down if you're maintaining a proper Excel sheet, and when they are made answerable for each and everything. An attendance sheet is something which you need to follow, because whenever there is inspection from the labor this thing government bodies, they do come and ask you if you're maintaining the attendance sheet, and if you're keeping the ID cards and address proof of all the staff who are working in your cafe. Now, cafe expansion concept. So if someone is planning to have multiple cafes, multiple outlets, it is always going to be beneficial for you. Why? Is because you have multiple outlets, you can rotate your staff, you can have a cloud kitchen, which is always going to help you, so that all the outlets kitchen doesn't have to be completely set, or completely operating for all the menu items whatever you're making. So cafe expansion is something which you really can think of once you have this, or even if you're confident enough, if when you are going to the market, you can go with multiple outlets initially itself. And there is always this PMFME schemes and other schemes which you can make use of it for your cafes, wherein you get a subsidy of 15 lakhs for the cafe. That is a totally different topic. I don't want to mix it up with this session. Probably next section we might take on that subsidy, how to make use of PMFME and other schemes for cafe projects. Now, apart from that, see the location license. Think I've covered pretty much everything, and also the consultant involvement. Yeah, see what happens is why I suggest consultant if you have lack of experiences, because the amount what you are paying for the consultant as a fees and is always useful for you. Certain things which is can be learned only through experience. Now if you don't want to learn from your mistakes by paying for it, so certain mistakes you can always avoid by hiring a consultant, and you can decide to what extent you need a consultant. Not necessary end to end you might need it. You might need it just for getting you the right vendors, so you can just pay for that particular component, or getting you the licenses or menu finalization. Or if you feel that entire the project you need a consultant, so that you are focusing on other things rather than things which you're not aware or which you're not have knowledge about it. So consultant is something which you can always consider, because certain things after committing a mistake you'll be in a stage where cannot go back and correct those mistakes, or you'll not be in a position to hire a consultant at that point of time because you've already emptied your pocket. So just ensure that these are the things which I'm confident, which I have knowledge about. I don't need a consultant. The things which I don't have knowledge, do hire a consultant. Yes, I think I've summed it up pretty much. So apart from this, if there are any other questions according to what project you are doing, if I this was more like a general thing, cafe management. So if there is any specific to the projects what you are doing, so we can take that up.
Participants, any questions?
Fine. Anyway, my contact details are shared. So if you have any questions regarding this later, if it arises, comes into mind, please do let me know.
Sir, morning, sir. Mahesh here from Mysore.
Yes.
Can I get the few quality vendors' name so I can get the good quality items and competitive rates, sir? Them
Sir, you are planning to set up this in Mysore or in Bangalore, sir?
in Mysore itself only, sir.
Mysore, I need to check, sir. I'll check on that. And but regarding what vendors you need for what products?
For beverages and food items.
Beverages and food item, is it? See, now you have ITC. So they have a lot of distributors. So you just message me on my number. I'll share you the list of vendors who are available in Bangalore. They'll definitely help you out, to find a vendor in Mysore, and few might be distributing in Mysore as well.
Yes. Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay, then we'll wind up the session. Thank you so much, Sagar sir. We will make sure that we share your contact details. And
Sure.
in case anybody has any doubts, they'll get back to you, sir.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank
Can
you.
we get his number, Vaishnavi?
Sure, sir. We'll be sharing it on the group shortly.
Group shop.
Since
Okay.
since we actually wind it up little early, so those who are there here, I'll just brief it up regarding PMFME scheme, how it can be used for the cafe project. See, PMFME is Pradhan Mantri Formalization of Micro Food Processing Enterprises. So in this you get a subsidy of up to 15 lakhs. Now this is eligibility. There is eligibility criteria for this. So if you're having a setup which is to do with baking, that is manufacturing. Baking is considered as manufacturing, making breads, pizza bases, burger buns. So you are procuring items, machineries for for manufacturing these items. So for these machineries, and you have a subsidy for up to 15 lakhs. So the maximum cap is 15 lakhs, and you get CGTMSC added to that. That is a non-collateral loan up to for 50 lakhs project cost. So make use of these PMFME schemes, but ensure that if you fall under the eligibility criteria first, So if you're falling into that eligibility criteria, make use of these schemes. So it is always going to be very, very useful, and that is gonna cut down 50% of your burden when it comes to your budget financing. So PMFME is one thing which you can use for cafe, but it has to be to do with manufacturing.
Hello, Sagar.
Hello, yes.
What is your opinion about setting up a cafe in rural area? It means
What
in
kind
a
of cafe, sir?
interior rural,
No, what kind of cafe?
regular cafe.
So who's your target audience?
Target audience is tourism,
Mhm.
and commuters who
Okay.
travel on a daily basis.
Okay.
Not
So
on a daily
so
basis. Who travel on the
yes.
travel for entertainment or some leisure time. They travel for their leisure.
See, there are challenges setting up cafes in tourist spots or like rural areas like this, because you'll be completely dependent on tourists, and tourist traffic happens only on the weekends. So your primary business is going to happen only on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. So Monday to the rest of the days. So what is that you can think of working out? Now you cannot depend on your local crowd, because rural areas definitely people don't want to come there and spend so much for the food, for the cafe concept. I mean, they're not used to cafe concept basically. So that is something which you need to work on. I know a couple of places like Big Bean Cup. They have their setup in Coorg, on the way to Coorg, and they're doing really amazing. They're even weekdays they're doing good, because they have this Coorg crowd as well along with the tourist crowd. So ensure that you pick up a spot that even weekdays, if not as good as setting up in urban cities, at least 30-40% of that traffic you have or footfalls you have on weekdays. But but this you can think of doing this only if weekends you're doing really amazing, like it has to be almost 5 or 10 times more than what you're doing on weekdays, or as good as any other places which are doing very good on weekends in urban cities. Only then you can think of it. Why is because you will get it for a very lesser price, your rentals will be lesser, you might get it with less staff also, your operation cost might be less. But if you're not doing that minimum number of sales to sustain, it is gonna there's no point doing it. So work on that maths, wherein you are very sure that Friday, Saturday, Sunday is going to be very good, that you don't mind on the weekdays even it is literally zero also.
Okay. Thank you.
Fine, then I think no more questions, I believe. If there are anything that you want my guidance, you can contact me.
Sure. So your details has also been shared on the program group, sir. Thank you so much again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.